Michelle, you are our cleanup hitter today.
Yay, Simon, always good to see you, my friend. I truly believe that what's meant for me won't miss me, and deeply surrendering to the entrepreneurial journey and figuring out what my calling is. But there's this concept right now about the energetics of money and being in the 3D world, still having to pay the bills, but also figure out in the entrepreneurial journey, like what lights me up inside and how to do both. So could you talk a little bit about the energetics of money and how to like use that energetics to do both, to attract it? I would love, you're the perfect person to answer this question for me.
Great question, Michelle, and a very practical question at that. So I think the best way to answer it is probably to share a little of how I quit my corporate job and began my business. Because I think for a lot of people that quit their day job in order to start their business, the biggest obstacle for them is money, it's finances. What happens if I don't make money from this business? And in the first couple of years, it's completely unknown. You don't know if you're going to get all the clients you want to get, or you're going to have the money come in the way you expect. And so the way I saw it is that in order to have some stability, but take some risk, we have to see risk through two perspectives. On the one hand, you need to have caution in one area of your life that gives you the ability to take extreme risk in another. Now, what do I mean by this? Now, when I was in a job, I had the safety of a monthly paycheck. But for a lot of us, we don't value that paycheck. So we continue to spend as if we are going to be an employee forever. But what you want to do is to change the relationship you have with that money. So if you see your employer as like an investor into your dreams, and then your monthly paycheck as capital coming into your bank account that is helping you to invest in what you want to do long term, then that relationship, that change of relationship with your money changes how you spend it. Because now, if you see yourself as the CEO of your future business and not as an employee, when that monthly paycheck comes in, you're not going to go and splash it on things that don't really matter. What's going to happen is you're going to say, okay, I'm going to start putting X% into a savings account that will build up my buffer and will help me get through the first 18 months if I get no income. And then some of that money I'm going to invest into books and courses and seminars or mentors in order to help me move forwards. And maybe a bit more of that money I'm going to put into growing my business. I'm going to invest in platforms. I'm going to invest in tools and equipment I need to grow my business. So what's happening is you're already starting to identify as a business owner. So that's the one part of it, is because you have this stability through that corporate job, you're able to start thinking logically about the path forward. What that gives you on the flip side is the ability to take extreme risk with what you do outside of work. So you can try lots of stuff because you've got this caution on the other side that is this day job. So what it means on the other side, you can go and try things, experiment, be creative, and just see what works. Start stacking the odds in your favor. So what happens is that when you get to that point, and we all get to this point, you get to this point where it's like, do I make the jump or don't I? And for me, that jump came when I got 3 paying clients on the side. But I knew that if I got a fourth, my coaching would suffer because I could only coach on weekends and evenings, and my day job would suffer because I wouldn't have the focus because I'm being pulled in too many directions. So my dilemma became this. Do I continue with this day job and limit myself to 3 clients, or do I quit the day job and see just how far this rabbit hole goes? And this was a process of about 3 to 4 months of going back and forth in my head. Do I, don't I, weighing up the pros and cons before I just went with my gut and I went with the option that I would regret the least. And then I made the jump. But for me, what made it comfortable is I'd already started saving for the first 12 to 18 months, assuming I had zero income, but I had enough to cover the basics. Then, when you talk about energetics, Michelle, the reason this is powerful is when you have a good base, that means you can last for at least the first 12 to 18 months. This gives you the energetic freedom to walk away if you don't need that money. Because energetically, people can feel if you're desperate. If you're trying to make a sale and
Yes.
you're desperate for that sale and you need that sale, the recipient can feel it. But if you walk into that conversation and you go, this is all about you today, whether you work with me or not, It's about the value get out of our conversation. The question is whether you want to work with me and whether this experience gives you an insight as to how a coaching partnership would work together. And then you just focus on serving. Because in business school, they teach you unique selling point. But if you focus too much on unique selling point, especially when finance is an issue, it becomes an energy of desperation. But if you focus on unique serving point instead, suddenly that desperation goes, and you'll quickly find that you attract people into your ecosystem. Because, and I know this is something that Bob Burger said in his book, so I'm going to lift it from The Go-Giver, but he says that money is simply an echo of value. When you can provide and give value in a way that the person receiving it has never experienced before, the money will come. The money will eventually come. And just to give you an example of this in action, I remember meeting a prospect client who works in the music industry. So he's worked with some of the most famous names in the music industry. He's got 5 kids and he's going through a very stressful time, and he's about to go on a plane to New York to seal a new deal. And we have a 90-minute conversation in London, and I don't focus on the sell. I just focus on listening and listening and listening to gather data on how I can be of service. Now, when he takes that flight to New York, he checks into the hotel. I send him a WhatsApp message. And because I know he is into music, he is a music executive after all, I send him a link to a private Spotify playlist. And I say, hey, Ben, when you get a moment, give this playlist I put together for you a listen and just notice what you notice. Now, he sends me a WhatsApp message sometime later, and he says, Simon, that was a very beautiful playlist, and he got me pausing, reflecting, and thinking about my next 6 months. And he finished that WhatsApp message with, when do we start working together? Now, what happened is I didn't sell to him, he sold himself to himself. And so that's the gold standard in selling, is when you serve, they do the selling to themselves. Because the question is, how can I not work with this person? How can I, even if I don't want to work with you or I cannot work with you, how do I refer you to someone else? Because the experience was so good. Somebody else has to have an experience with you. And so this is how you build longevity in your business. You're able to build these relationships. You're able to stack the odds in your favor. You're able to increase the probability that the universe will send that money back to you through the form of clients and opportunities.
That is exactly what I needed to hear today, my friend. Thank
So
you.
good.